Hello everyone. Welcome to the first online wave for hosted in this region, in the Asia Pacific region. My name is Geraldine. The reason why I joined Female Wave of Change and why I support this initiative is because I believe that feminine values and feminine energy are what is badly needed in the world today. We need to promote it. And we need to really sort of do all we can to push it forward. The second reason why I took a fancy to Female Wave of Change was really from their website. The quote that they have, it says, "I have not done it before, therefore I think I can do it." It's a quote from Pippi Longstocking, one of my favorite characters, and it resonated with me because it just shows that we can do whatever we set our minds to do. And I feel that the ambition of Female Wave of Change is similar to that. Before I introduce tonight's speaker, Leigh, I would like to present the floor to the founder of Female Wave of Change, Ingun Bo. Take it away.
Thank you, Gerry. It's really a pleasure that finally we're starting our first online wave from hosted by Singapore. It's really great to be here. So, well, my name is Ingun Bol. Yes, I was one of the founders, or still I'm one of the founders of the Female Wave of Change, and why I have been involved with women development now for 7 years. And what happened a year and a half ago was that I realized that we really live in a world of change, rapid change, and that there are so many women, just looking the other way and think, if I ignore it, then it's not going to happen to me, but it is. So Female Wave of Change really focuses on women to be aware that they can be the leaders and the change makers in this rapidly changing world, that they have to be responsible for their own future, for the future of their families, of the future of their community and the country, the world. If we really want to change this world into a better place, we do need that feminine energy, we need those feminine values, and that is really why we started that Female Wave of Change. That we would be in almost 21 countries within a year. I never thought that would happen, but I do believe that really is a sign that women especially are looking for what can we do? We want to contribute, and that is, I think, why they joined. And the countries that join right now, they're from all over the world. It's not just the Eastern or the Western, it's everywhere, and that is really what I love. What are we doing? We're connecting, really building bridges and not walls. So connecting, but we want to do it a feminine way, on that heart-to-heart level. We want to share knowledge and experience. Sharing is really a feminine thing, We want to have everyone the same knowledge. We're building. We're embracing change and then transform it into new opportunities together. So taking that responsibility, not sitting back and relax and waiting for things to happen, but to make things happen. And as I told someone last week, we're also not fighting the old. We're building the new. And I also think that is very important. So connecting, building our network very much on the social media and on our website. So please find us everywhere and invite your friends to inspire and share knowledge and experience. We use our online waves, but also local events. And creating those new opportunities, and that is something that is really going to happen this year. We're setting up mastermind groups around, talking about and discussing about certain challenges that we are facing right now, and to find the solutions and create those new opportunities. Well, something I really want to create your awareness about, on March 24, we're organizing a global event. So there will be in all these 20, and I think there will be 25 countries by that time. We will have local events. They will be organized by the ambassadors and their wave makers. They will have speakers that we will be broadcasting. We will be live streaming. So if you're not living in a country where we already are represented, then you still have the option to join us online. So save that date, March 24. We will be traveling from New Zealand to Hawaii. So just block the whole day. There will be fantastic speakers. I have heard already from many countries. There's someone really spectacular in the United States. I heard in one of the countries in the Middle East, one of the ministers will be at the event. So there's a lot happening. So save that date and make sure that you can join us. I can speak for hours, but it's not my day. So I'm going. It's back to you, Gerry.
Hi again. So tonight I have the utmost pleasure to present to you a former colleague and a friend from days of yore, Leigh Pasqual. She is an extremely passionate individual, someone whom I admire greatly. She's a communications expert who has a special place in her heart for gender issues and women's empowerment. Like Ingun, I could go on forever about Leigh, but let me leave you with her. Tonight she talks about the NGO that she started, the charity that she started that's based out of the US called Good for Girls. Leigh, go for it.
Hi everybody, good morning, or rather good evening to you all. I'm very honored to be here speaking, and Gerry asked me, I was like, why do you want to talk to me? I hope that, what I share about the organization that I organized inspires and excites people about how change is happening around the world. I'm going to just put on the little PowerPoint for a second. Okay, so can everyone see this? It's so I started Good for Girls in 2012. I started it as an organization, but it was self-funded at the time. For about 2 years, I self-funded it. And I really wanted to do something for girls because I've spent such a long time working on gender equality issues, more than 15 years. And in that time, I sort of crystallized what I eventually wanted to do on my own. And it really led to girls for many reasons. I mean, the most important being that the girls become women, and there are many, many entry points when they're young to stop the cycle of poverty, to stop bad cycles and initiate good. I also very much believe in the agency of women and girls, and how agency can be cultivated when they're young. Agency in the sense of going on to help others, standing up for others, becoming a change agent, really, in your own life and in the life of your communities. So when I started Good for Girls, I had just turned 40, and I wanted to do something of a milestone. I was also pregnant at the time, and I thought, you know what, I'm having a girl, I'm 40 years old, I better do this. If I don't do this now, I may never do it. And so I started Good for Girls. And the focus of the organization is really to support girls in countries around the world, disadvantaged girls, to gain the education and skills they need to become empowered women. Empower women for themselves, for their families, but also to thrive, so that they live out their best potential. And so we started very small. We're still very small. We're all volunteers. And this slide sort of just shows why I decided to do girls. Because sometimes people ask me, especially some of my male friends, don't you care about boys? I say, no, I care about boys a lot. I really do. But when you look at boys and girls globally, the disproportionate impact of poverty, of violence, of discrimination stares you in the face. And what we're trying to do is not make girls better than boys. What we're trying to do is level the playing field so that all girls and boys have an equal chance at opportunities, at resources, at livelihoods. So really, you know, the discrimination that girls feel in different countries around the world. I mean, I've listed 4, but there are really a lot more. Education is a big one. They could be prevented from going to school, taken out of school early to be married or to work or to take care of the home. They can be restricted from economic opportunities and livelihood options, you know, prevented from working in particular jobs, restricted to only certain jobs, you know, menial labor, factory work. They can be subject to gender-based violence, as we all know, and this ranges from domestic violence to sexual assault to trafficking and slavery, and then poor access to healthcare, which really results in, well, I just saw an article yesterday about 21 million girls born in India who are unwanted. And sex selection is one of the things that you see the effects of: high maternal rates, maternal mortality, high girl-child mortality rates, and an increase of risk of contracting sexually transmitted diseases. So who are we? These are the 4 areas that that represent our mission statement. We support girls' education and skills building. So we don't just do academic education, but we also support initiatives that promote learning skills, both in formal and informal school systems. We develop the girls' self-esteem so that, most importantly, they learn resilience and self-sufficiency. We strengthen their access to healthcare and health-related knowledge to allow them to make better decisions about their own well-being and also of their families. And then I mean, this is a big one, but we hope that in so doing, we're also challenging social norms that perpetuate gender stereotypes and, you know, perpetually cast girls as inferior to boys. We are a very tiny nonprofit, completely volunteer. I just have a board of directors, and the 6 of us sort of do stuff. We're based in New York City because I live here now, but we work globally. And what we do really is that we partner with other small organizations. We give them grants, we provide them with some technical assistance. And this is an area actually that I realized needed a boost. In all my work, you know, I realized that a lot of support was usually going to the large organizations, but there are a lot of small groups around the world doing very good things, who were having to compete with big organizations and finding it difficult to get funding, first of all. And second of all, these small organizations really do a lot with a small amount. And so I set out looking for small organizations that could really do a lot with 5, 10,000, 20,000, and, you know, small change, but impactful change. And so our approach with these organizations, and really that's actually the toughest part of Good for Girls, is finding these organizations, getting to know them, becoming, you know, real partners with them, and then embarking on this journey, because we're not one-off granters. We look to work with an organization for years. We get to know them very well. I'm on constant calls with the executive directors. We go and visit if we can. So we're not sort of click, donate, buy. You know, we get involved with these organizations. Again, this is only possible with small organizations, because the big organization is going to be like, no, just give us your money. We don't really need you. So what we help them to do is we take a holistic approach. We help them to either pilot something new or to grow something that is doing well. At all times, it's always partner-led. So they determine what they need. It's needs-based, and it's always girl-focused. Importantly, we believe, and our partners must believe, that women and girls are not victims, but they are survivors, they're change agents. They are individuals with potential and abilities in their own right. And again, as I mentioned earlier, education and skills building really is what we see as the root of positive change. So who we are, I sort of mentioned this in the last slide. Small nonprofits need support, so we help them at small amounts that are very impactful. Our very first partner in Ethiopia, I asked her, I said, she wanted to pilot a program in a part of Ethiopia with girls, and I'll talk a little bit more about that. And I said, how much do you need to pilot this program? And she said, $9,000. And I said, oh my gosh, what? So from there, we started going along, and it's been almost 5 years now that we've been working with them. So, it's not one-off support. As I said, we partner for several years. We get to know our partners very well so that we establish some kind of trust. And then, really importantly, we leverage the potential of online fundraising. We don't have any institutional donors, and I'm not sure I will go down that route. Right now, we focus on events that we organize here in the city, as well as our online fundraisers. We really want to give people an opportunity to do something positive with a small amount of money, because there are a lot of people who want to give and who really want to see some change, but they can't afford it. They can't afford to donate $10,000 to, Amnesty International, but they might have $20. And, that's every cent counts as far as I'm concerned. And then the last thing that we really, also want to focus on is obviously visibility. Like Female Wave of Change, it's really about creating a tsunami of awareness so that it causes a ripple effect. Harnessing, not just working for girls, but harnessing this energy, as you said, this female energy, so that it blossoms, it balloons, and it continues. I think that's what we hope. This is just a slide done by one of my wonderful board members who's a graphic artist, that just shows how dire some of the situations are in some countries when it comes to child marriage. I'm going to talk a little bit more about that, because that's what our first partner in Ethiopia is focused on. They are called the Girls Gotta Run Foundation. And although they're US-based, they started because a gender studies professor in Washington read a news report one day that female runners in Ethiopia, we all know that Ethiopia is well known for its long distance runners, right? I mean, running is a source of pride for them in Ethiopia. But female runners were having a very tough time getting sponsorship, getting any kind of recognition. And I mean, these women were just as good as the men. But the ones you saw overseas running the marathons, winning and getting sponsorships were all men. And so Patricia, who started this organization, started Girls Gotta Run to go to Ethiopia and support professional female runners in Bekoji, which is a strange part of Ethiopia that produces, not a strange part, sorry, a part of Ethiopia that strangely produces a lot of runners. I don't know what it is, whether it's the air, whether it's the terrain, but somehow good runners come from Bekoji. So she went to Bekoji and she started supporting professional runners. This was several years ago, before I came across them. And I was looking for organizations to partner with. And I found this group online. Somehow, I'm not sure. I'm a runner myself, so I don't know, maybe something crossed at some point. I'm not sure. But I got in touch with the executive director. It was a lovely girl called Kayla. And she came to New York and we started talking about it. And she told me that they wanted to move away from supporting professional runners and really start going after girls. Start going after girls because child marriage is a huge issue in Ethiopia. Girls are taken out of school, sometimes as early as 9 or 10, when they reach puberty. And there's many reasons for this. I mean, it's poverty. It's also very culturally acceptable, both by men and women. And so, you know, how to do something that would impact on this issue. And so what they wanted to do was to actually reach girls through running, because running was a source of pride. And they used running as an entry point to meet with the communities and talk to parents, because it's not something foreign. It's not some weird thing that you're asking girls to do. You're just saying, look, I want your girls to train as runners. So it's like, oh, running? Okay. So running was the entry point to reach these girls. But the real focus of this program that was started, which is called the Athletics Scholarship Program, was a life skills course that was run every week, and that taught the girls a lot of things like nutrition, financial literacy, how to manage relationships, how to deal with health, your healthcare. And so that was sort of the real thrust of it. But the scholarships that were provided to these girls, and we started with just 15 girls in 2014. These were all girls at high risk of being taken out of school. It was an all-girls school, so it made it a little bit easier to manage. A private school, so these girls were already on scholarships or already more disadvantaged than other girls, but all of them were at risk of being taken out of school more than their counterparts. So we started with 15 girls. The girls trained as runners during the week, 3-4 practices a week. And then on Saturdays, they come to school, they spend the day at school doing this life skills course. And then they get together in a peer support way. They wash their clothes together, they eat together, you know, that sort of thing. So the athletic scholarships cost about $600 a year. And they cover a whole lot of things, from uniforms, you know, school fees, tuition, clothing, athletic gear, meals, soap, hygiene products, feminine hygiene products, and healthcare for the girls, insurance, medical healthcare for the girls and for their moms. Because we all know that when our mother gets ill, her family really suffers. There's nobody else, and then the family stops working. So the healthcare was also extended to the mothers. And last year, the first cohort of 15 girls graduated from this program, and it's amazing. All 15 of them are continuing their education, and all of them are no longer at risk of child marriage. I mean, the wonderful thing is that the families have really understood what education is about now. They are educating their other children. They're making sure that their other girls stay in school. And there has definitely been a ripple effect. There's a story that I just wrote about one of the girls who graduated last year. Her name is Mara Wheat. And I just posted it a few days ago on my site. And she's living proof, really, of how when you educate a girl, you know, there's the saying, when you educate a girl, you educate a village. When you educate a girl, the benefits are not just to her, but her family and her community. And she's living proof that that is true. So she is now 10 years old, and she's in 6th grade. So the other thing to sort of clarify as well is that not all the girls are the same age. They all went into the program depending on their risk of being taken out. So some of them are a little bit younger, some of them are a little bit older. So Mara Wheat is 10, and she's in 6th grade. Now, to get a job in Ethiopia, you actually need to go up to the 10th grade. So the hope is that these girls will all continue to the 10th grade. But there's commitment from their families, at least, that they will stay in school till 10th grade. So Mara Wheat, she joined the program as one of the first 15. And the amazing thing is that because she was started doing very well in school, you know, the girls are not worried anymore that they're going to be taken out of school. They're focusing on their education. They're getting proper meals. You know, their bodies are stimulated with exercise. So it's really a holistic way of improving your school experience. Yeah. So she started encouraging her parents to go back to school. So her father was working at a church, and he, I think, finished school up till about 10th or 11th grade. So he's working at a church nearby, but he went back to school and got his college education, and has now been hired as a priest, as an Orthodox priest at that church. So their livelihoods are already improving. Her mom, who finished school at who had to drop out at grade 8 because she got married at age 18, and also had Marawit at age 18. She had to drop out of school at grade 8. She was convinced to go back to school as well. And so she went back to school and finished up to grade 10. And now she has decided to continue into grade 11. So very, very few women in Ethiopia go on to study after grade 10. Grade 11 and 12 are like pre-college. And you can do amazing things at grade 11 and 12. So the mom is now in grade 11, which is somewhat unthinkable a few years ago. And she says, Marawit is the one who encouraged me to go back to school. And, she described how, before the program, our home didn't even have a proper roof. We didn't really have chairs in our house. We didn't, our doors were not really, our house was not painted. And now everything is getting so much better. And then the dad was also saying that because he's a pastor, people come up to him in church all the time and say, wow, look at Marawit. She's grown so much. She's academically and physically like so much more mature. And it's inspired other parents to encourage their kids to stay in school and to start running. So, the ripple effect is amazing. Yes, it's a small rural community, but, real people's lives are being impacted. So we were very, very happy to continue partnering with Good for Girls, with Girls Gotta Run. And we're going into our 5th year this year. And Girls Gotta Run, so a couple of years ago, they decided to expand their project to Bakoji, which I'd mentioned was the land of runners, targeting girls again. And so the project has grown from 15 girls to 100 girls now. It's pretty amazing. And in Bakoji, it's a little bit more tricky because it's not a girls' school. It's a public school that we're working in, so there are boys and girls. But it's coming. And in Bakoji also, because of the climate and the nature of the community, the project has also expanded to the moms of the girls and helped them to start a savings club. This is a club where they come together. A lot of the moms do small business out of their homes. They sell coffee or fruits, or they may tend, they may tend chickens or cows. So this savings club is a way for them to come together and learn from each other about, learn from each other about business and learn from each other about how to do better. But importantly, it's allowing them to also create some kind of a microfinance fund for themselves, which is amazing. So there are 35 women, 35 of the moms are in a savings club right now, and we hope to grow that and also introduce that savings club back in Sodo, which is where the original program was. So, it's only being replicated and growing. And we're very happy to be, partnered with them. This is just another lovely graphic that I like, which is completely true. An educated mother is more than twice as likely to send her children to school. Now I'll just talk briefly about our other partner that's based in Singapore. I chose Singapore because that's where I'm from, but also because, and I think Gerry will also have something to say about this, but I think poverty is very much hidden in Singapore. You see, the skyscrapers, you see the glitz and the glamour of the F1 tournament. You see all the malls, and by and large, it's an extremely affluent country. But I think Gerry will attest to this. Alicia will attest to this too, who's listening in. poverty is very much a hidden problem, and it's actually growing as income inequality widens. And a large number of those who are poor or falling into disadvantaged status are women, single women with families, and elderly women. So, you know, I chanced upon, I'm still very connected to my home country, and I have spent quite a bit of time volunteering with a number of their women's organizations. And so I came across Daughters of Tomorrow, which was started a few years ago. And what they do is that they help disadvantaged women get back on their feet in terms of going back to work. So these may be women who weren't working when they were, because they were looking after their children full time. They were stay-at-home moms. And then for various reasons, their husbands are no longer there. It could be death, divorce, or abandonment, you know. So a lot of the women that they work with are single moms with more than one child. These women, DOT helps these women get back into the workforce, not to do typical low-skill jobs, but to upgrade their skills so that they're not going back into the workforce to do, you know, menial labor or to be housekeepers or to do data entry, but they're actually improving their skills. It's giving them an opportunity to actually improve their skills. And then DOT also helps them to find jobs, connects them with employers, takes them through the interview process, coaches them on how to do it, literally holds their hand really, until they get that job. Right now they're working with about 80 women. And by all accounts, as Carrie, the executive director tells me, the numbers are growing. And, you know, there's only so much they can do. Anyway, so we came into the picture because Carrie and I were talking. She mentioned to me that, you know, people sometimes forget when women are looking for work, actually men as well, that there may be children in the picture. What do you do with your children when you have to go for an interview? What do you do with your kids, especially if they're very small, when you have to go to a training? You can't bring them along. So the burden of care does not go away for women. And how do we deal with this? So what Carrie discovered was that a lot of the time, the older kids were having to come home from school. Now, school in Singapore, I think, is from like 7:30 to 1:30, 7:30 to 2, thereabouts, 2:30. The older kids were having to come home from school to look after their siblings. And vast majority of these older kids were girls. So they're missing out on school. Because in Singapore, a lot of school activities happen after school. A lot of the enrichment activities, you know, arts, dance, drama, sports especially, everything takes place after school. And so they're missing out on this stuff. They're also missing out on extracurricular tuition. You know, they may need remedial lessons. They have to go home and take care of their siblings so that their moms can actually go out and find work or go to work. And so what we decided between us to sort of try to pilot was a small care fund, we call it, where women can actually, where the women that DOT works with can dip into the fund to pay for babysitting so that their daughters don't have to come home to look after their siblings. And so the benefit really is that the girls then get to stay in school, they get to do, you know, the extracurricular stuff, and so that their development is not impeded because, so that it's not it's a cycle. We sort of help to break the cycle. Right now, the fund is still being developed in a way. I think that first steps that we've discovered is that the women, what DOT is trying to do now is actually create communities of trust among the women so that they will be each other's babysitters when they don't have to go to a training or a workshop or interviews. And in that way, they look after someone else's children and get paid for it out of our fund. So it's not just wasted time. But also it creates sort of a group, a peer group, a community of support, if you will. So it's taking some time to get these women to trust each other. I mean, there's a lot of trust needed, because if you want somebody else to look after your child, obviously and you've especially if you've never had that before, I mean, it's going to be something that needs to be built up over time. So that's where we are with that. And then the other thing that we're looking into doing, this is just some pictures of the DOT. These are some of their clients, and that's a training session in progress. I met with Carrie when I was home in Singapore in December. I met with Carrie for a long chat, and one of her staff members actually was a former client, and it was wonderful to see that she's now joined DOT on staff. And that's it. www.goodforgirls.org. We are always happy to take contributions, how big or small. We have an annual fundraiser every year, and it's just about to wrap up this week. And then after that, it's all the information is on our website. But I hope that people might go to our website to read the story that I posted about Mara Wheat. It's really very inspiring. It's really testament to how change happens on the ground. All right, that's it. Thank you for listening.
Well, thanks, Leigh. I mean, it was a very inspiring presentation. I'm sure that, I see that there are questions. Are there questions here? Now Alicia says that her connection is iffy. Yeah, you might want to go off and come on again, Alicia. Yeah, are you good? Yeah. Okay, so basically what we have now is Q&As. Please you're currently, most of us except Leigh, Ingun, and myself are on mute. So what you can do is just unmute yourself and fire away. Does anyone have maybe what we do is just raise your hand, so at least I know who's going to ask a question. Duria, I can't see you, so it'll be tough to see you raise your hand. So if you want to ask, just, ask the question, unmute yourself. Yeah. Anyone's got a first question? Otherwise, I wanted to ask Leigh, what do you think what were some of the challenges you saw in starting Good for Girls? And what are some of the highlights?
The challenges? The biggest challenge, I think, was finding the organizations. It's still the biggest challenge because I'm very particular about, I have a checklist. I need, first of all, to get to know them, to see how they're working. There are many, many, many nonprofits out there. And unfortunately, some nonprofits claim to be working in the interest of gender equality. But when you drill down a little bit more, you discover that it's not true. And so I'm very careful about that. I also wanted to be sure that these were organizations that really made the most of what they had. They make the most of, what little resources they have. And I also wanted to ensure that these were organizations that would welcome me as a partner, that would not just look at me as a funding source, but would actually welcome us as partners, as grantors, but also someone to go to for advice, someone to go to in terms of helping to shape their program a little bit. I try not to be a very annoying funder, like I don't get involved in the nitty-gritty, but I do like to discuss how programs are developing with the people that we work with, our partners. And so that was a very important point for me. The other challenge too, I think, was really just explaining to people a very basic question, which was, why wouldn't I give directly to those organizations? Why would I give to you? And I tell them that the answer is very simple. You can. In fact, it would be wonderful if you gave directly to these organizations, because part of our support is raising visibility for them. So if you were to decide to become a donor for them, fantastic. But I think one of the reasons why we exist is we wanted to help channel funds or small donations from people who couldn't afford the time or energy to go and look into how an NGO is performing. So, we really do the due diligence for you. And I can say for a fact that I know the people that I'm working with. I talk to them all the time. It's tangible. So it's not some faceless organization that you're putting money into. And I think that's what Good for Girls does. I don't really want to say we're the middleman, because we're not just channeling funds. We're actually strategically thinking about where those funds should go and how they should be applied. But I think that's the value add that we bring to people who want to give but don't have the time to research it. So I think, and I think as we've gone along, I think people have more and more sort of understood that aspect of it. They also understand that, it's not a competition. We're not competing with other organizations for funding. So by all means, if you want to give directly to any of the organizations we partner with, please, that would be wonderful. And so once I think people understand that, it's not, why should we give to you? So yeah, those are really the main challenges. And I mean, other than that, it's the fundraising is always going to be the challenge. But that's just life. Gerry knows this. But yeah, that's, other than that, it's my privilege to actually be involved in this organization.
Great, thanks. Renee, you had a question.
Yes, please. Hi, all. I'm rather new to the real world of the gender equality and initiatives in this. So I'm very fascinated by what you were telling, Leigh. That's really, I only thought about big organizations, but this is really very powerful. I have actually two questions. One is a bit personal. So how much time do you spend after, now it's really set up, how much time do you spend now to the Good for Girls Foundation, and do you combine it with other work? Or I think I forgot what you mentioned in the introduction. And the other question is, so you mentioned two examples in Ethiopia and Singapore, and so do you have any focus worldwide, or is it just in your due diligence you find initiatives that you really like and you just go for them? So these would be my questions.
Okay. So your first question, I spend maybe a few hours a week on Good for Girls, so not terribly a lot. I mean, I have been a writer and editor for the last 10 years with the UN mainly, a lot of UN agencies, and I'm currently working. Currently working on a 6-month writing contract with UNICEF. So I'm sort of up to here with with work, and then I have 2 small kids as well, so it's a lot. But a couple of hours a week, maybe. I sort of it's very hard for me to quantify because I sort of weave it into my day. For example, I might talk to the treasurer on my board about our finances today, and then tomorrow I might have an email from GGRF asking me about something. It's sort of, it's hard to quantify. I think I do something on Good for Girls every single day, but it might be 3 minutes, it might be 1 hour, so it's very manageable. Again, because it's very small, we keep it very, very small. And I have a pretty active board. When we organize events, everybody comes together. And I also have, some generous friends who remember me every year and throw a few dollars my way. So it's been okay. Then in terms of your second question, yes, what we do is there's no particular focus. The focus really is on education and skills building. So wherever I may find an organization in a part of the world that's doing something like that fits my criteria, which is that they're small, they can do a lot with a small amount, that they're completely girl focused, I mean, the benefits to girls have to be tangible. Then, you know, and they're willing to develop a partnership that's not just a donor grantee partnership, then, you know, by all means. But I'm not actually going to expand a lot because, again, the fundraising that we do is still very small, and we really want to focus on the organizations that we are partnered with right now and really crystallize the relationship. So I'm not sort of interested in finding like 5 to 10 organizations to support, because then it becomes hard for me to manage and really get to know them, you know. So one thing we are looking at doing is something in the US, because I believe that I need to participate in my community. So Singapore is my community, but the US is also my community. And I'm currently talking to an organization in LA that works with foster kids. And these are foster kids that are going on to college, which is already amazing. And we're talking about, they were looking for small scholarships, you know, $500, $1,000, just to help them do certain things to help them get to college. It might be buying a computer, it might be paying online application fees, you know, that sort of thing. And so we're sort of exploring doing that, because that would be very manageable for us. And it's an easy ask. It's something that I think I would be able to raise funds for quite easily. So, you know, it's little things like that. And then I think we'll just focus on these areas for now.
Thanks a lot. Makes sense. Thank you.
Any other questions, dear? Alicia?
Hi, can you hear me?
Hi.
Oh, great. Well, hey, Leigh, thanks so much. It's really been great hearing about the projects that you've been doing. I've got a question about the unintended consequences, if any, of some of these projects that you've done. Let's say Ethiopia and the one with DOT in Singapore, because presumably anytime you do something that empowers or returns power to a disenfranchised group, it upsets constellations of existing power. Have you seen some of this, or something that maybe you didn't expect and blindsided you know, that just came up? Maybe, I don't know, because of different cultural contexts. You do have quite a broad geographical reach.
Yeah.
So yeah, what are some of these things? I'm curious to know. Thanks.
So in Ethiopia, really, I think because the starting point is already challenging, there's been no pushback. It's only improved. And I think it's important maybe to look at the starting point. So, you know, when your starting point is no, girls shouldn't go to school, or they need to be married when they're young, because, you know, poverty reasons or safety, they want to keep their kids safe, etc. You are already starting from that point of view. And so to me, it can only get better. So I think that, to be really honest, the pushback from the community there's been no pushback. It's been positive, because running is not something foreign. It's a very natural thing that Ethiopians do. It doesn't require any extra fees. You don't have to book a court. You don't have to, you know, wear special clothes. You don't, you know, the gear is very limited. In fact, you can run barefoot. You can run in shorts, t-shirt, and you know. So it's understood. It's cost effective. And there are more and more female runners that are becoming very prominent in Ethiopia. So it's already changing. And I think the scholarship part of it really, really helps as well, because it takes away the financial burden from the family. So with that $600, when they can not have to think about their daughter's lunch, and, you know, maybe, and the $600 goes a long way, because they can actually share with their siblings as well. That it really takes away this whole burden on the family, like, oh, we have to take her out of school and marry her off because we can't afford it. So that really helps. And the other thing that's helping too is that they see what's happening to their girls. And I think this is the most important point. They see the change in their daughters.
Mm-hmm.
They see them mature. They see them become a lot more outspoken. And they start to see why they start to see other paths forward than child marriage. I don't need to marry my child off because she's getting an education. She's doing really well. She's going to be safe. She's going to be able to get a job. We can afford to put her there. You know, like all of a sudden the reasons for marrying her sort of dissipate. And this effect is spreading to the community. So the good thing about GGRF is that they don't just deal with the girls and the families. They actually have community meetings as well, where they involve the whole community in understanding why education for girls is important. So that's one of the reasons why I really like this organization, and we partner with them. They get it, you know, that you can't work in a silo, you can't work in a bubble. It has to be a community effort. So that's Ethiopia. In Singapore, I think it might be a different story. It's at the moment, there has been no pushback. I mean, there's so much pushback on a daily level for women, for single mothers, especially in Singapore, that, you know, you're probably familiar with, in terms of housing, in terms of, you know, benefits that you can get for your kids. That, again, it's starting from a low base. And I think, you know, it can only improve. But I think the important thing also is that at no point here is it posited as a competition. We're not competing with men. We're not helping these women to be better than men. We're just giving them a leg up. You know, we don't want, again, we have to keep stressing, we don't want girls to be better than boys. Necessarily, we don't want to give them an unfair advantage. It's about leveling the playing field. So I think that's a great question. And who knows, I'm sure there'll be pushback possibly in other ways, because this always happens. But so far, so good. Yeah.
Super. England, did you have a question?
Yes, I have a question. Yes. Yeah. Well, it's more into the future. It's well, you said you one girl or two girls, or
my little girls. Yeah, I have two.
Two girls. Yes. So what is the dream you have of your you know, if you look at your children and your maybe your grandchildren? I know that still takes a while, but how does this world look if you look at your projects and your contribution into building something that's really make things happen?
That's a great question that I think about all the time, and I change my mind all the time. But maybe president of the country, maybe, because they're both Americans, so they have a chance.
Okay.
Maybe a Nobel Prize. I would love that. I have big plans for them. But you know, the image that's always in my mind when I think about my kids when they're older, even not that old, maybe 10, 11, is coming with me on a trip to maybe Ethiopia or somewhere else that we work, and working and doing the work with me. Mm-hmm. Being there and not being wide-eyed, but completely getting it and just being part of my team. That's the image I always have in my head. Mm-hmm. And I think that's hopefully where we'll get to, you know, at some point when they learn what I'm doing. And I don't think they're going to escape from hearing about the issues. Unfortunately, my husband doesn't escape. No. So yeah, that's a really nice question.
Yeah, but then they can be president and use their feminine qualities, and feminine values to really create a new society, really different society. Yes, absolutely.
Yes, yeah. I mean, importantly, I want them to know that there's nothing that they can't do. Mm-hmm. That's the most important thing.
Yeah, and that goes for all the girls and women in. Yeah, I have something else, and maybe that's not a question, but it's something I heard you say about that savings club in Ethiopia. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I've heard our speaker who was here in September, Jane Onyango from the slums in Nairobi, she was talking about something similar. And that is very interesting, because I do believe that that there is a foundation for, if you look at the workforce right now here, well, at least here in the Netherlands, there's more and more people who are freelance, interim, and they cannot, if they don't have work, they cannot fall back into a system. There's no system that protects them. And what she was telling us about that the way they do that in the slums and bring money each and every week to go into that, and if someone needs money, then they have money, then they don't have to go to the bank. There's always money, and there's always a situation for someone who is ill and has to go to the hospital, or is not able to pay for school fees or things like that, that the community together make sure that there's always money, and it shouldn't always be the same person who goes for the money, but there's always money for people that they can use whenever they need to. And that is they're setting up similar things. But it's amazing, we can learn as much from them as they can learn from us, and especially with things, very creative things. If you don't have anything, but still try to figure out ways to solve issues that they have to deal with. It's very wise. So really would like to know how this works. So if you if there's anyone who can talk about it, and because I do believe that systems like that are they use it now because they just have to figure out a way. But I think also for us in the developed countries, we need more systems like that to rely on.
So it actually is a very old system. In fact, when I was growing up in Singapore, I remember that there were neighborhood groups had the same system. It was called the tontine system. I don't know if you, if Gerry and Alicia remember this, but it would be a group of neighbors who would get together, and everybody would put a small sum in. I don't know, $10, $20, so that you end up with a pot of money, and then you would apply for that pot of money based on need. And then when you return the money, there was a small amount of interest. So it makes you have to return the money. I mean, it's not just an honor system, but there's actually a financial requirement for you to return the money. And then for some reason, the Singapore government outlawed it. I have no idea why. So it's actually not legal anymore. And I suspect it's because there were too many disputes, too many conflicts among neighbors. I'm not sure why, but I have very, very vivid memories of my mom and dad showing me the tontine and saying, oh yeah, we have this neighbors group. And it was very impersonal. But I should find out more about why it was actually outlawed. But in some of these other countries, the developing countries, it's a very common form of like a club for women, especially because women have been found to be extremely good at paying back loans. They borrow and they pay back, right? We know this from all the research on microfinance, and it really is just a small version of microfinance. And I think, the women themselves set the parameters. At least I know for the Savings Club, the Girls Gotta Run Foundation does not dictate how they run the club. The women set the rules and they follow the rules, and then they develop the club as they go. And so there are dispute mechanisms. You have to have a dispute mechanism. You have to have a disbursement mechanism. How is the money given? You have to have ideas about threshold, how much money for what need, all that sort of thing. How you repay and what do you report on when you repay, that sort of thing. So, I mean, it'd be interesting to know how your other guests in Nairobi, how they do it, and sort of compare the patterns, because I think it's a very interesting
Yeah, I think it would be a nice issue at one of the for one of the mastermind groups to talk about things like that. I know here in the Netherlands we have we call it the broodfonds. It's bread fund. So it's especially for the freelance people who when they get sick.
Right.
So normally you have this whole system here, you know, and you know everything's been taken care of.
Yeah.
But you are a freelancer and you cannot work for 6 weeks, for instance.
Yeah.
You have a problem because you don't have an income. The broodfonds, they bring money in, but they can also use it. Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and I know from Jane there was also some kind of system that you know everyone sometimes needs more money.
Yeah.
And for people who don't have money, it's more easy to bring $5 per week and bring it into this system.
Yeah.
At the same time, it would be distributed. So one after the other has the right to collect that money, or within a month, or so if they don't have to pay it back. They get it. So it's and yeah, and so they use it at that moment to pay for the rent or to pay for
whatever they need, right?
to pay for something else, so that they, once in a while they have this bigger amount instead of that $5. So it's that works. It works as well.
Yeah, I didn't know that freelancers were falling through the cracks in the system. That's very interesting.
Yeah,
because there's so many freelancers now. I'm a freelancer, so.
Yeah, but here, if you're an employee, then there's all kinds of insurances, and if you just get paid, and it's the same if you don't have a job, you get paid.
Right.
Always some security so that you get paid. But if you're a freelancer, you have to save money for yourself.
Yeah.
Or, it's not. The government that is going to provide you with anything. So it's a very very interesting issue, because more and more people will be working freelance instead of getting the job.
And what is the if I could ask, like, are there a lot of women freelancers? Because I know at least here in the US there are a lot, like, women freelancers are women make up a large number of freelancers.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's
because it helps them to balance their family life and
it's more and more, absolutely. Yeah. So, and especially also if you look at now the predictions in what is going to happen, in the next coming years, it will be 40 to 50% of the jobs that will be lost because of IT, robotica, artificial intelligence, things like that. And it will be especially the middle groups. And in the middle groups, there are a lot of women, and there will be work in return, but there will not be jobs in return.
Yeah, right.
More and more people will, and especially women, will have to choose for building their own companies, starting their own companies, or working freelance or things like that. So it's very important to find a way to get money. I just picked it up. It's going away from your Good for Girls, and I really think you're doing amazing things. And, that's really what I love. In the last year, I've met so many women that are doing projects all over the world, in countries that you think, okay, so, wow, there's everything is, well, most of the things are against you, but they're still making things happen. And I applaud you for that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. We're slightly past the hour. So I just wanted, before we close, to say a big, big thank you to Leigh. You've been an inspiration. You continue to be an inspiration. You're definitely one of the wave makers.